there's a sound. If you love cars, you already know it before I even describe it. A deep, woofling, slightly unhinged rumble at idle, like a thunderstorm pulled up a chair, sat down, and decided to stay a while. That sound had a name. The Mercedes-AMG V8. For 20 years, it was the most charismatic noise in the entire car world. The sound of a hand-built engine with no sense of restraint and no interest in growing up. And in 2023, Mercedes switched it off. On purpose. They swapped it for a 4-cylinder 2.0 liters. The same basic engine family you'd find in a hot hatchback. And they told us, with a completely straight face, that this was the future. Formula One tech, progress. The customers had a shorter word for it. The word was no. Now, 3 years later, the V8 is coming back. But the real reason it's returning is so much better than the fans got loud. It's a story about physics, one crankshaft, and a very expensive lesson. Let me explain. To understand why it's coming back, you have to get a little nerdy about engines with me, because the engineering here is gorgeous, and it's the only way to see why the smartest people at AMG spent a fortune undoing their own decision. Quick backstory, because it matters. AMG started in 1967 in a converted mill in a tiny German village, founded by two engineers with one slightly obsessive belief that a Mercedes engine could always be made angrier. That was the whole business plan. And out of that came a rule they still print on every engine they build. One man, one engine. A single technician assembles a motor by hand from the first bolt to the last, then signs a little metal plate that sits right on top. Your engine isn't built by a robot. It's built by a person who puts their name on it. That's romantic. It's also a promise. For years, they souped up other people's engines. Then, in 2006, they built their first from scratch, and it was a monster. 6.2 liters, naturally aspirated V8, no turbos, just enormous displacement, and a red line that went looking for a fight. It powered the C63. It powered the Gullwing SLS supercar, and it's still one of the great naturally aspirated V8s ever made. Then the emissions rules tightened, and AMG got clever. They shrank it to 4.0 liters and strapped on 2 turbos. But where they put those turbos is the beautiful part. On a normal turbo V8, the turbos hang off the outside of the engine. AMG did the opposite. They tucked both of them down into the valley, the V-shaped gap between the two banks of cylinders. They called it a hot V, and it's brilliant. Shorter exhaust path, faster spooling turbos, and a lower, narrower engine. That's the twin-turbo V8 that made modern AMG famous. But here's the detail that explains the soul, the crankshaft. The classic AMG V8 used a cross-plane crankshaft. Without drowning you in it, the crank throws are set at 90 degrees, so the cylinders inside each bank fire in an uneven, lumpy rhythm. And that lumpiness, that irregular heartbeat, is exactly what creates the burble, the woofle, that lazy, gurgling thunder you feel in your chest. Sound was never an accident. It's geometry. It's literally the shape of a metal bar turned into music. Hold on to that. It comes back. So why on earth would AMG kill all of this? One word: pressure. Emissions rules in Europe got brutal, and a big V8 burns fuel like it has a personal grudge against it. Meanwhile, over in Formula One, Mercedes was winning everything with tiny, turbocharged, electrified hybrids. So AMG made a bet. The future isn't displacement. It's a small engine working impossibly hard with electricity filling the gaps. And to be fair, the engine they built to prove it was a masterpiece. Truly. It's called the M139, 2.0 liters, 4 cylinders, and the most powerful production 4-cylinder ever made. On its own, it makes around 469 horsepower from 4 cylinders. That alone is absurd. But the real trick is the turbo. AMG lifted an idea straight from Formula One and built an electric motor about 4 centimeters thin, then slid it right onto the turbo shaft. That little motor spins the turbo up to 150,000 RPM electrically before the exhaust gas even shows up, which basically erases turbo lag. The boost is just there. Then over the rear axle, they bolted on a second electric motor with its own gearbox and an electronic diff, fed by a small, dense battery. Add it all up, and the C63 made 671 horsepower and 752 pound-feet of torque. On paper, it demolished the old V8 car. On paper, AMG won the argument. And then it went on sale, and reality showed up with notes. Because here's what the spreadsheet forgot. A C63 was never a stopwatch. It was a personality. People bought it for the theater, the way it cleared its throat in a parking garage and set off car alarms 2 rows over. And a 4-cylinder, no matter how brilliant, just doesn't do that. It sounded busy, strained, a little apologetic. Worse, all that hybrid hardware is heavy. The battery, the motors, the gearbox. The new small-engine C63 ended up weighing over 2 tons, heavier than the V8 it replaced. The engine got smaller, and the car got fatter. That's the kind of irony engineers keep out of the brochure. So buyers did the one thing a company can't argue with. They stopped buying. Sales of one of AMG's most iconic cars fell straight off a cliff. You can ignore angry comments online. You cannot ignore an empty order book. Which brings us up to the reversal, and it's moving fast. The 4-cylinder C63 is being phased out by the middle of 2026, partly the sales, partly new noise rules that would have cost a fortune to keep that complicated little engine legal anyway. In the meantime, a car called the C53 steps in with a smooth inline 6, more cylinders, more soul as a bridge. And then the headline, AMG has confirmed a brand new V8. It shows up first in the CLE 63, a big muscular 2-door, and spreads out from there. In their own words, AMG is doubling down on engines again. But here's the part the celebration posts leave out. It will not be the same V8. Remember that cross-plane crankshaft, the one that made the burble? The new engine switches to a flat-plane crankshaft. Flip that geometry and the cylinders fire in a perfectly even rhythm. The upside is real. It revs higher, faster, sharper. It'll sound more like a Ferrari than a muscle car. But the downside is just as real. That deep, lazy AMG woofle? Mostly gone. Traded for a harder, more exotic scream. So the V8 is coming home. Just picked up a new voice on the way back. And honestly, that's the most interesting part of the whole saga. Because zoom out. A giant, century-old company looked at the future, decided it knew better than the people who loved its cars, and tried to engineer the emotion out of the equation. And it was technically right and completely wrong at the same time. A brilliant engine that nobody's heart actually wanted. And the customers pushed back so hard with the only vote that counts, the one with a price tag attached, that the company physically reversed course. That almost never happens. Usually the spreadsheet wins. This time, the feeling won. And there's a lesson buried in here for the whole industry. For a few years, everyone seemed sure that faster on paper was the only thing worth chasing. AMG just paid a very expensive tuition bill to relearn what enthusiasts always knew. The sound, the drama, the lump in your throat when it fires up, that isn't a luxury. For a car like this, it's the entire product. So no, the AMG V8 isn't dead. It went away. The world told Mercedes exactly how that felt, and now it's walking back through the front door. A little different, a little sharper, but unmistakably itself. It's coming back for the oldest reason there is. Because some things are worth more than a faster lap time. And every now and then, the people who build the cars remember that too. Thanks for hanging out with me. You can't spreadsheet your way out of great noise. Mercedes tried. The world pushed back. And the V8 won. If you'd rather understand why a car matters than just hear it rev, you're in good company here. Hit subscribe and I'll catch you in the next one.